Why was 6 afraid of 7? To really answer that, you have to understand 6's situation. See, it had been many years since I had seen 6, and ideally I hadn't wished to see them under these circumstances, my youngest brother's funeral. All of our catching up felt forced, a formality, none of us interested or retaining each other's answers. Who could blame us? We lost someone tragically. The real mystery, though, was how? No other member of the family would speak of it, crossing themselves, throwing themselves into hysterical sobbing. I couldn't keep hurting my mother that way. She didn't deserve that. But 6 was resilient. 6 had overcome so much in his lifetime, a battle-worn heart laced with scars of iron. I would elaborate, but it's not my story to tell. 6's life is far too sad, and you don't know 6. Maybe some other time, with their permission, of course. We stood in the open air of the cemetery, far from our mother and siblings. Our family had always been quite large, and seemingly everybody had made it to the ceremonies. 6 was shaken, though. 6, the bravest one of us, seemed an unusual pallor, as if he was seasick on solid ground. I finally decided to breach the question with them. 6 knew something they weren't telling. Something the whole family besides me also seemed to know. 6, I began. You've always been the roughest son of a gun I've known, ever since we were children, shooting bottle rockets off in the abandoned grocery store parking lot, and yet here you are, shook to death. Why, remember when we were kids and that bear showed up in our backyard? Yeah, 6 chuckled. You were hiding under your bed, saying something about not playing with matches anymore. Yeah, I chortled. It was true, I had been a little bit of an amateur arsonist at that age, maybe 4 or 5. And when that bear showed up in our backyard, I honestly thought he was an emissary of Smokey the Bear, and Smokey had had enough of my shenanigans. I hid under that bed, swearing I would never be responsible for a forest fire, and it's a promise I've kept to this very day. But you were brave as a lion. You went out there with that electric megaphone you got for Christmas. You blared the siren sound, your arms stretched over your head, and chased the bear back into the woods, screaming and growling the whole time. You were incredible. My lord, I don't think I've ever seen anything quite like it in my life. 6 smirked, hiding their eyes. It's no big deal. No big deal! I couldn't believe 6 would be so modest. He could have swiped his razor-sharp claws and torn through our gas line, and our furnace could have blown up the whole house. There's no way that could have happened. You don't know that. You don't know that. We were both smiling, but I was very serious with my praises. Or how about that time when Mom caught me smoking, and you instantly stepped in and said that you, in a bit of sibling tomfoolery, tricked me into smoking that cigarette. It wasn't even true. I'd gotten those cigarettes from Nick Keller at school, but you didn't care. You took the heat for me and a month grounded after school. You were so selfless and I hadn't fully realized, but I was in tears. It was only then I realized how close me and 6 used to be. 6 was my hero, and my time away from home had caused me to forget about that. Before I knew it, 6 had me in their arms, consoling me. The air swirled around us, and suddenly we were as kids again, my older protector trying as best they could to stop whatever it was hurting me. Suddenly I felt weightless, as if nothing were tethering me to ground, and we both at any moment would float into the sky like a lost balloon. Until I looked towards my mother in the lowered casket. Reality had set in. I decided to get right to it. Shoot straight with 6. They'd always done the same for me. 6, I said. You've been the bravest, strongest person I've ever had the pleasure to know, and having you as a sibling, well, that was just icing on the cake. I wiped a little bit of residual snot on my coat sleeve, my face still wet with tears. Yet even you, in this moment, seemed disturbed to a degree I've never seen in you. You who would watch horror movies late at night and never close your eyes. You who didn't even flinch when I accidentally shot a bottle rocket off in your direction, what, in that parking lot of the abandoned grocery store. You who stood up against that frightful bear. You who would face any punishment headstrong and unmoved for your family. I have to know. What happened? What's wrong? What happened to our youngest brother? 6, well, they turned their eyes from me, composing themselves as best they could. I could tell it was burning them up just as much as it burned me to be kept in the dark. Finally, 6 took a deep breath, exhaled slowly, and turned their face to meet mine. You saw the casket, yeah? Yeah. Did you notice at the wake it was closed? I had, I said with sorrow. I know whatever happened to him must have been bad. Six paused, bracing for impact. That's because there's hardly anything in it. I froze, my hair standing up on end. Six, I begged. Please, I need to know. He was so young, so full of life. I'm begging you, what happened? Six looked around the scene. You know, it looks like the whole family's here, but somebody's missing. I looked again for myself. Six was right. Out of all the familiar faces I had grown up around in our cramped little home, one person was absent from today's proceeding. Someone who should absolutely be with us today. Have you figured it out yet? Six asked. 7. They nodded. 7. Why, 7 was always quiet, so meek. Why, 7 kept to himself by law. 7 who would scoop stray spiders out onto old junk mail and place them under the shade of a sunflower in the garden. 7 who into adulthood still refused to step on cracks in the sidewalk, still superstitious that he would send our own mother into an early grave. 6, surely you can't mean to tell me that somehow, some way in this upside down world, that 7 was even remotely responsible for what's left in that casket. They looked to the sky. I don't know what 6 was looking for. Guidance? A glimmer of hope? A sign that God still existed in a world so miserable? After a few seconds, 6 lowered their head back down and said, No. Well, relief washed over me. 6, buddy, don't scare me like that. Why then? Why is 7 not here mourning with the rest of us? Please tell me what happened. I'll never forget what happened next. 6 placed a hand on my shoulder, looked into my eyes, and said something I'll never forget for the rest of my life. Justin fell into an industrial vat of chemicals because he thought it would turn him into the Joker. We both stood there silently. Oh, what about 7? The night before, we went to Golden Corral and 7 ate 9 plates of their prime rib. The food poisoning was so bad that they're in the hospital. Oh. I tried to process all this information. I guess that's scary. It was terrifying. I'm really, really scared. Scared we'll lose them too. Scared they'll do this again. Is that why you're so pale? No. 6 scoffed. Long COVID. Okay. Alright, I'm done with this.